Maria gripped the edge of the counter, her left leg trembling as she tried to keep weight off it. The lunch rush at Joe's diner had just ended, but her shift wouldn't finish for another 4 hours. She'd twisted her ankle badly 3 days ago, stepping off a curb outside her apartment building. The swelling had gone down slightly, but every step sent sharp pain shooting up her calf. She couldn't afford to miss work, not with rent due in 5 days and her son's asthma medication running low. The prescription alone cost nearly $200, and her insurance had lapsed 2 months ago when the diner cut her hours. Joe, her boss, had made it clear that calling in sick meant losing shifts permanently. 2 other waitresses had learned that lesson the hard way. The bell above the door chimed. Maria looked up to see 5 motorcycles pulling into the parking lot. Her stomach tightened. The last thing she needed was trouble. The bikers dismounted, all wearing leather vests with a skull patch on the back. They were big men, tattooed and weathered, the kind that made other customers uncomfortable. Maria forced herself to stand straighter, ignoring the pain. She grabbed 5 menus from the stand and limped toward their usual corner booth. The leader, a man with a grey beard and arms covered in faded ink, watched her approach. His eyes narrowed as he noticed her uneven gait. "Afternoon," Maria said, keeping her voice steady. "Coffee for everyone?" The bearded man didn't answer immediately. He exchanged glances with the others. "Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Ride for Justice." "What happened to your leg?" he asked. "Nothing serious, just clumsy." Maria set the menus down, trying not to show how much standing hurt. "The special today is meatloaf with mashed potatoes." "You should be sitting down," one of the other bikers said. He had a scar running down his cheek. "I'm fine, really." Maria pulled out her notepad. "What can I get you?" The bearded man leaned back, studying her face. Something in his expression made Maria nervous. These men had been coming to the diner every Tuesday for months. Always quiet, always polite, but today felt different. The bikers ordered their food, but Maria could feel them watching her as she limped back to the kitchen. She clipped their order to the wheel and leaned against the prep station, lifting her injured foot slightly. The relief lasted only seconds before Joe's voice cut through the kitchen noise. "Table 6 needs refills. Move it." Maria grabbed the coffee pot and made her way back out. The lunch crowd had thinned, leaving mostly regulars and the bikers. She refilled cups at table 6, then headed to the corner booth. As she poured coffee, the bearded biker spoke again. "How long have you been walking on that ankle?" "I'm managing," Maria said. "That's not what I asked." She met his eyes. There was something about his tone, not threatening but genuinely concerned, that caught her off guard. "3 days. It's getting better." "Doesn't look better," the scarred biker said. "Looks like you can barely stand." "I appreciate the concern, but I need to work." Maria turned to leave, but the bearded man's next words stopped her. "Can't afford to take time off." Maria's jaw tightened. She didn't want pity, especially not from strangers. "My situation isn't your business." Didn't say it was. He took a sip of coffee, just making an observation. The kitchen bell dinged. Maria excused herself and brought out their food. As she set down plates, she noticed one of the bikers, younger than the others, taking photos of the diner on his phone. Another was writing something in a small notebook. Strange behavior, but Maria had seen stranger. She spent the next hour serving other tables, doing her best to hide the limp. But it was getting harder. By 2 o'clock, her ankle had swollen so much that her shoe felt tight. She was carrying a tray of dirty dishes when her leg gave out. The tray tilted, glasses sliding toward the edge. Strong hands caught it from behind. "Steady there," the bearded biker said. He'd moved so quickly Maria hadn't seen him get up. "Thank you," she breathed. "You need to sit down before you fall down." "I can't." "My boss will." "Your boss can deal with it." He took the tray from her hands and carried it to the kitchen window himself. The entire diner had gone quiet, everyone watching. When he returned, he gestured to an empty booth. "Sit." "I really can't." "5 minutes." "Sit." Something in his voice made Maria obey. Maria sat down, relief flooding through her as weight came off her ankle. The bearded biker slid into the opposite seat. Up close she could see grey in his stubble and deep lines around his eyes. He looked like a man who'd lived hard but learned from it. "Name's Jack," he said. "How bad is it really?" "I told you, it's fine." "You're lying." There was no accusation in his voice, just fact. I've seen enough injuries to know when someone's in serious pain. Maria glanced toward the kitchen. Joe hadn't emerged yet, but he would soon. Why do you care? Because nobody should have to work when they can barely walk. Jack leaned forward. What's the real reason you can't take time off? Maria hesitated. Something about this stranger made her want to trust him, which made no sense. I need the money. Rent's due, my son needs medication, and I'm already behind on bills. If I miss even one shift, I'll lose more hours. That's how it works here. That's illegal. That's reality. Maria's voice came out sharper than intended. Look, I appreciate that you caught my tray, but I don't need saving. I need to work. Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, what does your son have? Asthma. He's 7. His inhaler costs $200, and I'm down to maybe 3 days worth. Maria didn't know why she was telling him this. Maybe because he'd asked like he actually cared. Maybe because she was so tired of carrying everything alone. His father, gone, has been since before Tyler was born. Jack nodded slowly. Behind him, his friends were watching with interest. One of them, a heavy man with a braided beard, gave Jack a subtle nod. Some kind of signal Maria didn't understand. Here's what's going to happen, Jack said. You're going to tell your boss you're taking the rest of the day off. Tomorrow too. Wednesday, you're seeing a doctor about that ankle. Maria almost laughed. And how exactly am I supposed to afford that? Don't worry about cost. Just worry about healing. I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's basic human decency. Something your boss seems to have forgotten. Jack stood up. Where's he at? Wait, you can't. But Jack was already walking toward the kitchen. Maria tried to stand, sending fresh pain through her leg. By the time she caught up, Jack was already speaking with Joe. Your waitress needs time off, Jack said. Joe, a thick man with thinning hair, crossed his arms. She can ask for time off herself. She did. You said no. I said she could miss shifts, but I couldn't guarantee she'd get them back. That's different. That's exploitation. Joe's face reddened. Who the hell are you to come into my diner telling me how to run things? The tension in the room shifted. Maria saw the other bikers stand up from their booth. Jack didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. I'm someone who's tired of seeing people get taken advantage of. She can barely walk, and you've got her working a full shift. That's wrong. She chose to come in, Joe shot back. Nobody forced her. Because she needs the money. You're counting on that, aren't you? Keep your workers desperate so they'll accept whatever conditions you set. Jack's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. I've seen your type before. Get out of my diner before I call the cops. Call them. I'd love to hear you explain your labor practices. Maria stepped between them, her heart racing. Please, both of you, stop. Jack, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but this isn't helping. Joe, I'm sorry. I'll finish my shift. No, you won't, Jack said. Joe pointed at the door. Out. Now, all of you. The other bikers had gathered behind Jack. The scarred one spoke up. We're regular customers, been coming here for months, spending good money, never caused problems. All we're asking is that you treat your employee with basic respect. I treat my employees fine, Joe said. If Maria has a problem, she can find work elsewhere. So you're firing her? Jack asked. For being injured? I'm not firing anyone. I'm just saying if she can't handle the job. She's been handling it for 3 days on a bad ankle. Shows more commitment than you deserve. Jack pulled out his wallet and dropped several 20s on the counter. That covers our meals. Maria, get your things. You're done here. I can't just leave, Maria protested. Yes, you can. Jack turned to Joe. Unless you're going to physically stop her, because that would be a problem. The threat hung in the air. Joe looked from Jack to the 4 bikers behind him. Calculating, Maria saw the moment he decided it wasn't worth the confrontation. Fine, go. But don't expect your job to be here tomorrow. Maria felt her world tilting. She'd just lost her only source of income. The money she needed for rent, for Tyler's medication, for everything suddenly vanished. Her hands started shaking. Come on, Jack said gently, touching her elbow. Let's go. In a daze, Maria retrieved her purse from her locker. The other waitress, Sandra, gave her a sympathetic look, but said nothing. Everyone knew you didn't cross Joe if you wanted to keep working. As Maria walked out, she wondered what she'd just done. What Jack had made her do. Outside, the afternoon sun felt too bright. I needed that job, Maria said, her voice breaking. You need a job? Not that job, Jack replied. There's a difference. Maria stood in the parking lot, trying not to cry. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by cold reality. She had maybe $300 in her account, rent was $850. Tyler's medication was $200. Groceries, utilities, everything else piling up like an avalanche. She couldn't escape. What am I supposed to do now? She asked, more to herself than to Jack. First, you're getting that ankle looked at, Jack said. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Hey, it's Jack. Yeah, I need a favor. Got someone who needs to see a doctor. Probably needs an X-ray. Can you fit us in this afternoon? A pause. Perfect. Thanks, Doc. I told you I can't afford. And I told you not to worry about that. Jack pocketed his phone. Doc Mitchell owes me several favors. He runs a clinic about 20 minutes from here. We're taking you there now. I have a car, which you shouldn't be driving with that ankle. Leave it here, pick it up later. You're riding with us. The scarred biker brought over a helmet. Name's Marcus, by the way. This should fit. Maria looked at the 5 men surrounding her. These strangers who'd just upended her life. Part of her wanted to refuse, to maintain some dignity. But another part, the exhausted part that had been holding everything together for so long, wanted to accept help for once. Why are you doing this? She asked. Jack's expression softened. Because I've been where you are, different circumstances, but the same desperation. Someone helped me once when they didn't have to. Changed my life. Figure it's time to test that forward. 20 minutes later, Maria was sitting in Doc Mitchell's examination room while he carefully examined her ankle. He was an older man with gentle hands and a knowing smile. Definitely a bad sprain, he said. Could be a fracture too. We'll do X-rays to be sure. Either way, you've been making it worse by walking on it. You need rest, elevation, ice, and probably crutches for at least a week. A week? Maria's stomach dropped. I can't. You don't have a choice, Doc Mitchell said firmly. You keep walking on this, you could do permanent damage. Then it's not a week of rest. It's surgery and months of recovery. The X-rays showed no fracture, at least. But the sprain was severe. Doc Mitchell wrapped her ankle, provided crutches, and wrote prescriptions for pain medication and anti-inflammatories. When Maria asked about the cost, he waved her off. Jack and his friends do a lot of good in this community, he said. Consider this my contribution. Outside, Jack was waiting with the others. Seeing Maria on crutches, he nodded with satisfaction. Now you can heal properly. And what about everything else? Maria asked. I just lost my job. I have rent due in 5 days. My son needs medication. You might have meant well, but you've made things worse. Jack exchanged looks with his friends again. That same silent communication she'd noticed before. Come with us, he said. There's someone you need to meet. They drove to the industrial part of town, to a large warehouse with motorcycles parked out front. A sign above the door read, Second Chance Customs. Inside, the space was part workshop, part community center. Several people were working on motorcycles, while others sat at tables eating or talking. A woman in her 50s approached, wiping grease from her hands. Jack, who's this? Karen, meet Maria. She's had a rough day. Maria, this is Karen. She runs this place. Karen's eyes went to the crutches. Rough day is right. Come on, let's sit down. They settled at a table in the corner. Karen brought coffee while Jack explained what had happened at the diner. As he talked, Maria noticed the dynamics of the space. Everyone seemed to know each other, moving with easy familiarity. These weren't just co-workers. This was a family of sorts. Joe's place, Karen said with disgust when Jack finished. We've had issues with him before. Treats his staff like garbage. You're better off out of there, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. That doesn't help with my immediate problems, Maria said. Which is why you're here. Karen leaned forward. We help people who need it. That's what Second Chance Customs is about. See, most of us here have been where you are. Down on our luck, struggling, nobody willing to give us a break. So we created this place to be that break for others. I don't understand, Maria said. Jack spoke up. We restore motorcycles. Some we sell, some we donate to people who need transportation. We also do custom work for clients who can pay premium prices. That income funds everything else, including helping people like you. We've got contacts all over town, Marcus added. Businesses that owe us favors, people who trust our recommendations. We can help you find work, good work, with employers who won't exploit you. And in the meantime, Karen said, we've got a fund for emergencies. It's not charity, it's community support. When you're back on your feet, you help the next person who needs it. That's how it works. Maria felt tears welling up. Why would you do this for a complete stranger? Because nobody should have to choose between their health and survival, Jack said simply. Because your boss was wrong to put you in that position. And because we can help, so why wouldn't we? The younger biker, who'd been taking photos earlier, spoke for the first time. I posted about what happened at the diner on social media. It's already getting attention. People are calling out Joe's labor practices. You might have started something bigger than you realize. Maria looked around the warehouse, at these people who'd come together to help each other. What do I have to do? Right now, heal, Karen said. Rest that ankle like the doctor ordered. We'll cover your rent this month and your son's medication. Next week, when you're mobile again, we'll help you find a better job. After that, when you're stable, you find ways to help others when you can. Simple as that. It seemed too good to be true. Maria had learned to be suspicious of offers that seemed too generous, but looking into Karen's eyes, she saw only sincerity. There has to be a catch, Maria said. No catch, just paying it forward. 3 weeks later, Maria walked into Second Chance Customs without crutches. Her ankle still ached by evening, but it had healed well. Doc Mitchell had been pleased with her progress at her follow-up appointment. Jack looked up from a motorcycle engine he was rebuilding. Maria, good to see you walking. Good to be walking. She set a grocery bag on the table. I brought lunch, homemade sandwiches. It's not much, but I wanted to thank everyone. Karen emerged from her office. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Maria started unpacking sandwiches. I also wanted to tell you I got the job. The office position? Karen asked. Yeah. Start Monday. It's administrative work for a law firm, better pay than the diner, and they actually offer benefits. Maria smiled. Your friend who recommended me, she really went to bat for me in that interview. Told you we had connections, Marcus said, grabbing a sandwich. Over lunch, Maria shared what had happened since that day at the diner. Joe's had faced backlash after the social media posts went viral. Several employees had come forward with similar stories of exploitation. The local labor war was investigating. Meanwhile, Maria's story had resonated with people. Strangers had sent money to help, more than enough to cover her immediate needs. I set up an account, Maria explained. Whatever I don't need, I'm donating here, to the emergency fund, so you can help the next person. You don't have to do that, Jack said. Yes, I do. You showed me something important, that people can choose to help each other instead of taking advantage. That community matters. I want to be part of this. You already are, Karen said warmly. Later, as Maria was preparing to leave, Jack walked her to her car. How's your son? Tyler's good. His asthma is under control now that we can afford his medication consistently. He's actually excited about school for the first time in months. Less stress at home means less stress for him. Maria paused by her car door. I never properly thanked you for what you did that day. You changed my life. You changed your own life. I just gave you a push in the right direction. Still, thank you. Jack nodded. Just remember this feeling. Next time you see someone struggling, someone who needs help, remember how it felt to receive it. Then decide what kind of person you want to be. The kind who helps, Maria said without hesitation. Driving home, Maria thought about how much had changed in 3 weeks. She'd lost a job that was slowly destroying her. She'd found a community that supported each other. She'd learned that accepting help wasn't weakness. And giving help wasn't charity, it was just human decency. The next Tuesday, Maria stopped by Joe's diner. Not to work, but to talk to Sandra, the other waitress. She told her about Second Chance Customs, about the opportunities available, about choosing something better. Sandra listened with growing interest. 2 days later, Sandra called. She'd quit Joe's and reached out to Karen. By the end of the week, she had a new job lined up. Word spread. Other workers from Joe's and similar establishments started reaching out. Second Chance Customs couldn't help everyone, but they helped who they could. And those people helped others. The circle kept growing. 6 months after that day in the diner, Joe's closed permanently. Poor working conditions, labor violations, and a mass exodus of employees finally caught up with him. The space reopened as a worker-owned cooperative cafe, offering fair wages and good benefits. Maria attended the grand opening. So did Jack and the rest of his crew. Standing in the transformed space, Maria realized that everything had changed because 5 bikers had noticed a limping waitress and decided it mattered. They'd chosen to intervene when they could have simply finished their meal and left. That choice had created ripples, changing lives and building community. It had shown Maria and countless others that struggling alone wasn't the only option, that people could be better to each other if they chose to be. As she watched families fill the new cafe, laughing and eating together, Maria understood the real lesson. Change started with one person noticing another person's struggle and deciding to help. It continued when that person helped the others, and it grew into something bigger than any single act of kindness. Jack approached with a cup of coffee. Thinking deep thoughts, just realizing how one day can change everything, Maria said. It can, for better or worse. We just try to tip the scale toward better when we can. Maria smiled. Then let's keep tipping it. And they did. The cooperative cafe thrived through that first year. Maria became a regular volunteer, helping with everything from training new staff to managing their social media presence. Her corporate job paid the bills, but this work fed her soul. She'd discovered something about herself in those months. She was good at connecting people, at seeing needs, and matching them with resources. One evening, Karen called her into the office at Second Chance Customs. Jack was already there, along with Marcus and 2 other longtime members of the group. We've been talking, Karen said, gesturing for Maria to sit. This thing we've built, it's getting bigger. We're getting calls from 3 counties over now. People who heard about what we do, who want help, or want to help others. We can't keep running this out of a motorcycle workshop with volunteers alone. What are you saying? Maria asked. Jack leaned forward. We're saying it's time to formalize this. Create a proper non-profit organization. Get funding, hire staff, expand what we can do, and we want you to help run it. Maria's breath caught. Me, I'm not qualified. I've only been involved for 6 months. You've helped 12 people find jobs in those 6 months, Marcus said. You've coordinated donations, managed our social media, and brought in more volunteers than we've had in 2 years. You're exactly qualified. It wouldn't be full-time at first, Karen added. Maybe 20 hours a week to start, which you could do around your day job, but we'd pay you. Not much initially, but enough to make it worth your time. As we grow, it could become your main work. Maria thought about Tyler, about stability, about the risk of leaving a secure corporate position for something uncertain. But she also thought about Sandra, about the 3 other former Joe's employees they'd helped, about the single father who'd gotten a donated motorcycle so he could reach a better job across town, about the formerly homeless veteran who was now learning motorcycle repair in their workshop. What would my role be exactly? Officially Director of Community Outreach, Karen said. Practically, you'd be the bridge between people who need help and the resources we have available. You'd coordinate with local businesses, manage our volunteer network, help people navigate the system to get what they need. You'd also work on fundraising and grants. I don't know anything about grants. Neither did we until we learned, Jack said. Maria, 6 months ago you were working yourself to the bone for a boss who didn't care if you destroyed your health. Now you have the chance to build something that prevents other people from ending up in that position. I can't think of anyone better for this. Maria looked at each of them. These people who'd saved her when she was at her lowest, who'd shown her a different way of living, one based on community and mutual support rather than exploitation and isolation. Okay, she said, let's do it. The paperwork took months. Establishing non-profit status, setting up proper accounting systems, creating bylaws and mission statements. Maria discovered she had a talent for the organizational side of things. Her corporate job had taught her project management and communication skills that translated perfectly to this new venture. They named it the Second Chance Network. The motorcycle shop remained, but it became just one part of a larger operation. They added job training programs, a food pantry, and a legal aid clinic, where volunteer lawyers helped people navigate employment disputes and housing issues. The day they received their non-profit status, they celebrated at the workshop. Someone had brought a cake. Tyler was there, running around with Karen's grandson. Maria watched her son laugh, so different from the anxious child he'd been a year ago when she'd been struggling at the diner. Proud of you, Jack said, appearing beside her with paper plates. Couldn't have done it without you. Any of this, sure you could have, would have just taken longer. He handed her a plate with cake. You know what I like most about this? It's not just about us anymore. We started something that's going to outlive us. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, people will still be helping each other because of what we built. Maria had never thought about legacy before. She'd been too focused on surviving day to day. But Jack was right. They were creating something lasting. The local news ran a story about the Second Chance Network the following month. The reporter interviewed Maria, Jack, and several people they'd helped. Sandra talked about leaving her exploitative job and finding work that valued her. The veteran spoke about learning a trade after years of instability. A single mother explained how the food pantry had kept her family fed during a rough patch. After the story aired, donations poured in. So did requests for help. Maria found herself working 40 hours a week between her day job and the non-profit. It was exhausting, but it was purposeful exhaustion. She was making a difference. 3 months later, the law firm where she worked offered her a choice. They'd seen the news story. They were impressed by what she'd built. They wanted to sponsor the Second Chance Network as part of their corporate social responsibility program. In exchange, they'd allow Maria to work part-time at the firm while drawing a full salary, giving her more time to devote to the non-profit. It was the break they needed. With stable funding from the law firm and other corporate sponsors, Maria could finally draw a real salary from the Second Chance Network. She hired 2 part-time staff members. Sandra became their intake coordinator, and the veteran, a man named Phil, became their workshop supervisor. By the end of the second year, they'd helped over 200 people, found jobs for 73 individuals, prevented 16 evictions, provided emergency funds to 42 families, connected dozens more resources like healthcare, childcare, and education programs. The impact rippled outward in ways they couldn't always track. Someone they'd helped would go on to help someone else. That person would volunteer somewhere else. The community was slowly transforming, becoming more connected and supportive. One Tuesday, Maria still thought of Tuesdays as significant. A woman came into their office. She was in her 30s, professional looking, carrying a designer purse. She introduced herself as Jennifer Hartman. "I own 3 restaurants in the area," she said. "I heard about your organization. I wanted to talk about partnership opportunities." Over coffee, Jennifer explained her vision. She wanted to create a program where people transitioning out of difficult employment situations could receive training in her restaurants with guaranteed jobs at the end. Fair wages, benefits, opportunities for advancement. "Why?" Maria asked. "Most restaurant owners want cheap labor." "Because I used to be where your people are," Jennifer said quietly. "Working for someone who treated me like garbage. I got lucky, built my own business. But I remember what it felt like. I don't want to be that kind of employer." They launched the program 2 months later. 5 trainees in the first cohort. Within 6 months, all 5 had permanent positions. 3 were already training to become shift supervisors. Jack attended the graduation ceremony for that first cohort. Afterward, he pulled Maria aside. "You see what you did? You took what happened to you, what we helped you with, and you multiplied it. This is what paying it forward really looks like." Maria watched the graduates celebrate with their families. She thought about that day at the diner, limping through her shift, convinced she had no options. She thought about the 5 bikers who'd refused to look away, about the choice they'd made to intervene. "It's not just me," she said. "It's all of us. We're all choosing to care, to help, to build something better. That's the real story." "Then let's keep building," Jack said. And they did. One person at a time, one choice at a time, creating a community where people lifted each other up instead of stepping on each other to get ahead. It wasn't perfect. There were setbacks and challenges, but it was real, and it was working, and it was proof that things could be different when people decided to make them different.